Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with Weekly Comic Book Roundup. Already covered this week's Marvel books. Now, time to move on to this week's, sadly, a small sampling of DC books. However, that said, a book that was scheduled to release last week did come in this week, so it does kind of add a little bit to things. So, to kick things off, we've got Batman Urban Legends, #1. And just to say, I love that grifter cover. Now, this is also one of those few occasions where I actually opted to buy both covers of a book. So we've seen the grifter cover. Here's a Batman Red Hood cover featuring by David Finch as well. I figured I had to get both. Alright. So, we've got Batman Urban Legends is going to be a something of an anthology book. I knew the exact word I was looking for. Yeah, we got four stories. One of which is just going to be just in this issue. Two of which are. One of which is part 1 of 6, we got a part 1 of 3, and a part 1 of 5. First up, we got Red Hood and Batman and Cheer. The story begins with Jason Todd, Red Hood, chasing down a criminal through Gotham using rubber bullets. It's the compromise he's made with Batman so that he can work in Gotham. But he's looking into a new drug called Cheer. Cheer drops. Gives users a sense of euphoria and extremely pleasant hallucinations. The addicts end up trapped in this state, walking in front of cars, drowning, committing self-harm, all while witnessing their greatest dreams come to life. We then get a flashback to Jason's days, early days after being adopted by Bruce Wayne, but before becoming Robin. He knew that Bruce Wayne was Batman, but that he was training. And he discovers and offers him just more training. And he's a little perturbed about the fact that he's having to take over for Dick Grayson because Dick Grayson was perfect as Robin, but he discovers there's in part of Batman's armory is a room full of guns. He asks Batman about them. Because I thought you hated guns. He's like, I do hate guns, but I still need to know them for forensics work. And he needs to master everything, including the things he hates. Back in the present, Batman is watching GCPD try and talk down a Cheer Drops addict who's on the edge of a roof. They fail. He jumps off, and Batman swings in and saves the guy. He finds some Cheer Drops on him. Jason's got a lead on where he gets them from. However, in one apartment in the complex where he's been told to look, he finds a young boy freaking out and his mother in an apparently drug-induced coma. So he calls Oracle, tells her what's going on, and he'll keep the kids safe. Also, back at the Batcave, Batman's doing research on a sample of Cheer Drops that he's got. Apparently, seems to be the makeup of the cheer drops are quite similar to Joker's fear toxin. That said, apparently the Scarecrow's fear toxin. The Scarecrow is believed dead after the attack on Arkham. So Batman has Oracle look into Crane's activities. Though, to be fair, there's no evidence of Crane not being dead. But Batman's when he's investigating teardrops, and Barbara adds, "Yeah, so is Jason." Oracle suggests maybe Batman and Jason could work together, but no. We then get another flashback now to I don't necessarily want to say it's from the Under the Red Hood storyline, but at the very least, it's after during or after the events of Under the Red Hood, when Jason Todd was the Red Hood. And Alfred has some harsh words for Bruce about what's happened to Jason. But they both know Jason and his anger, as well as his adoration of Batman. And basically, that Jason idolized Batman, and Batman let him down. They all let him down. And while Bruce does somewhat agree with what Alfred's saying, that Alfred adds that Bruce Wayne needs to save him instead of Batman trying to fight him. Bruce does state that Jason's killing people, so Batman needs to stop him. In the present, Jason's tracked down the father of the kid from the apartment. Looks like he's working in a drug lab. But Jason gives the kid his mask. Tells him if he needs help, just say to the mask, "Oracle, I need help." So Jason enters the building. It's a central hub for. It's basically the teardrops factory. And he's trying to find the kid's dad. He does. Apparently, though, the kid's dad, and he really doesn't seem to care what happens to his girl or his kid, and in fact has even given the kid some of his stash of teardrops on occasion to shut him up. And upon hearing all this, Jason shoots the kid's dad, and not with rubber bullets. And he's very not happy. And that is where the story. That's where this portion of the story ends. Which brings us to our Harley and Poison Ivy story, New Roots. Begins with a flashback. Harley and Ivy, early in their partnership with one another, robbing the Iceberg Lounge, and among other, aside from the money they took from the place, Ivy also grabbed a plant. saying that the temperature was wrong for it. But in the present, Ivy's at a warehouse that was kind of a home for her and Harley. Her and Ivy. Um, they planting plant. It was going to be in a greenhouse. And she thinks back to when they when they first moved in there, and the picture of the two of them together. And we also see the point where the first time Ivy ever told Harley she loved her, and Harley, of course, you know, echoed the sentiment. But yeah, eventually, Ivy gives Harley the plant that they took from the Iceberg Lounge. Apparently, it was their first date, so to speak. It's even got some poison ivy in it. And but Harley's found a plant in the present. Harley's found a plant. She's gonna she's gonna take care of it. And thinking about the fact that Ivy always used to tell her that she was too impatient. Watch plant never grows. Because she knew that moving back to Gotham didn't mean everything would be just like it was in the old days, but she just kind of wish it was. And she wishes Ivy was there. Deciding that she needs to learn some patience to get up to with Ivy. Ivy's worth it. Which is where the story ends. Which brings us to our Outsiders story, The Caretaker, Part 1 of 3, which begins with Black Lightning imprisoned in a tower and asking if Metamorpho is still with him. Apparently he is, but he doesn't remember much of, anything. You get a flashback to earlier to that afternoon. Black Lightning and Katana were escaping from a group of bad guys in Japan, with Black Lightning using his lightning abilities to stop them, basically prevent them getting shot. Then they resort to arrows, one of which hits Black Lightning in the arm. And turns out they've got Metamorpho under their control, and they have him turned into a giant sea monster. But they've taken Katana prisoner, with Black Lightning figuring that her and the person responsible for everything are probably having a real interesting conversation. But Black Lightning's powers are at least active. He explains to Metamorpho that he can get them out of where they're at, but it's going to hurt Metamorpho like hell. But Metamorpho says, hey, whatever it takes to do it. And he notices, and Black Lightning notices that when, with Metamorpho, not even hesitating, his memory's coming back. So he electrocutes the floor, and it turns out that the tower he's being held in is Metamorpho. And that is where part 1 of the story ends. Which brings us to the beginning of our Grifter story. The Long Con. Begins in Gotham City years ago. Cole was part of Team 6. On a job in Midway City, and they were fighting against, among others, Mr. Freeze. At the time, but it's full of little nods to other Wildstorm characters. Carver from Sleeper, Deathblow from, well, Deathblow, Lynch, Slayton, and it looks like they're doing Max Cash as being Grifter's younger brother, and having originally been Grifter. But in the operation, before a bunch of the superheroes arrived, both Cole and seemingly Max were injured. Max just badly so. And so, in the present day, Cole Cash, now using the name Grifter, is the bodyguard of Lucius Fox, CEO of Wayne Tech. Supposed to be meeting with a prime minister, or with a foreign dignitary, and Grifter. A couple armed men approach. Grifter starts to fight with them, manages to knock them down. However, turns out that they were more of the dignitary's guards. They wouldn't all fit in the chopper. But turns out, yeah, he pretty much ruined the deal that Fox was potentially going to negotiate. But Fox wasn't going to do business with him anyway. But Fox basically explains that, his own safety isn't his concern. His concern is that protecting Fox is the job that Cole wants. And he knows Cole's good at this. Sort of. He wants to make sure that he knows what he's doing. So Cole's given the night off. And told that his job that night is to not kill anyone. Though Cole explains that he's not paid enough for that. And he gets dropped off in Gotham. But he gets dropped off at his place by Fox. There's a potential nod to Wildstorm, to some of the old Wildstorm books. Cole tells Fox there's a girl that moved in Gotham about the same time he did, but it's like she's from a different planet sometimes. Very clearly a little sidelong reference to Zealot from Wildcats, who was from another planet. Later on that night at a bar, Cole meets with Oswald Cobblepot and Nora Freeze. And Cobblepot makes an interesting point. He wants to know why, when he asks around about Grifter, the name Marlowe keeps popping up. After the bar, there's basically Grifter's got other assistants that he's in constant communication with. But Batman shows up. Him and Grifter have a rematch. Grifter totally bluffs with by telling Batman he figured out his secret. who he is under the mask. He's lying, but and Batman leaves. The next day at Wayne Enterprises, Lucius Fox is going over the installation, the new security features, and well, Cole's having trouble staying awake, in part due to some fights. But he's given the day off. However, rather than leave the building, he instead sneaks into a computer bay, a high security computer room. That night, in the river, the GCPD have found a body, Nora Freeze. Also on scene to investigate are Nightwing and Batman. Batman insisting that Grifter is the one who killed Nora. Also, in another nod to Zealot, one of the cops on scene mentions that witnesses reported a chick with a sword. Anyway, that is where the issue ends. To be completely honest, I mainly bought this for the Grifter story. The Red Hood story, the other stories were all good, though, so I don't mind how much I paid for it. Anyway, moving on to our next book, American Vampire, 1976. Number 6. So where we left off, our heroes had talked to the Council of First. The Council of First isn't going to help. But, well, not directly at least. But they did give them some information. And so our heroes are now 52 miles off the Alaskan coast. Turns out one of their number, Jim Book, is the only one who can potentially get the blood of light, which would actually enable them to kill the beast. So, in Washington, President Ford is preparing for a speech when he's getting ready to give a speech while people are protesting. But one of the Secret Service men, Bixby, the two of them have a chat. Apparently, the president asked Bixby if he knew the Eagle Scout Oath, and at the time he was asked, he didn't, but he does now. But the president has a speech to give, and he's called to, well, give said speech. Back with our heroes, Felicia and Travis are talking on the boat. Apparently, talking about things like, he grew up with, so Felicia grew up within the VMS, trained by Hobbs, more of a trainer than a father figure. Everything about surviving and winning, and he hated it, or she hated it, and she hated him. When the tongue reemerged in the 60s, that's how she was with Gus. Gus was the chosen one to fight the beast, so she became his Hobbs. Sometimes protect your kids, you have to become the monster you hate, she says. So when she picked Travis to watch Gus, well, Travis cuts her off saying, you thought I'd do the same, and well, I failed. I'm sorry. She says, no. I picked you because I knew you wouldn't be like Hobbs to him. And Felicia's glad she picked him, even after everything that's happened with Gus. Meanwhile, Cal and, what was her name? The true first American vampire. admit that they're talking about they're prepping for the future when Skinner, Jim, and let's see, Skinner, Jim, and Pearl explain they're at the flower. That's they haven't gotten to the flower, but they're pretty much there. So it's explained that what Jim's got to do is he's got to open a wound, and if the flower blooms, he has to open a wound, and the light of blood will enter him. So he's getting ready to, and he betrays them. Stabs Pearl in the chest. And when Skinner asks why, he explains that because he's changed. Apparently, the blood that resurrected him was from nearly 8,000 years ago when the Beast's armies ruled the land. But basically, Jim leaves Skinner and Pearl for dead. It also explains that the scent of the Beast that the Council first picked up on, it wasn't Skinner. It was Jim. And now the traitor, an operative of the Beast, of the Tongue, is taking care of the Council of Firsts. And more of the Beast's agents have found the boat. Meta takes a harpoon through the chest before being dragged off. And Jim pulls out a stick of dynamite to destroy the flowers. He also knows full well what it was that Skinner was trying to do when it came to dealing with the Beast the Tongue years ago. Basically, go out like a hero, not try and become immortal again. But the Beast operatives blow up their boat with rocket-propelled grenades, and Jim Book tosses the flower onto the flower that bloomed for him onto Skinner, and also leaves a lit stick of dynamite as he leaves. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our final book of the week. Rorschach, number 6. I'm going to say I love this cover. I absolutely love it. Where we left off, an assassination attempt on Governor Turley, a right-wing presidential candidate opposing the incumbent President Robert Redford, was foiled. One of the assassins dressed as Rorschach, who turned out to be a cartoonist by the name of Will Myerson. With him was a young woman who appeared to have largely lived off the grid, by the name of Laura. An investigator, an investigator has been looking into the whole thing. More information has been discovered. Laura grew up in South Dakota. Her father believed that there would be more squids coming in after the attack in '86, but and in fact eventually killed Laura's mother, thinking that she had been taken over by the squids. Anyways, in this issue, most of it is our protagonist reading through letters between Myerson and Laura. And at the same time, there's also supposed to be a debate occurring between Redford and Turley. But yeah, more and more letters kind of exploring the mental states of both Laura and Myerson. Laura is apparently a huge fan of the comic books he wrote, The Citizen and the Unthinker. Yeah. But yeah, most of the issue is really just the two that becoming closer and closer via letters. She mentions a dream she had where she was in a church. She'd never been in one before, she claims. And then the citizen came to her, and sitting on the pew beside her was a Rorschach mask. We kind of. He tells her about a story about how Mary Shelley came to write Frankenstein. How the stories came to her in a waking dream, basically, and she wrote it all down. She's told the Kitty Genovese. Myerson tells her about the Kitty Genovese murder. And then she saw she saw a guy smacking a girl around, and Laura then killed the guy and told Will about it. And so Will was like, I can't condemn what you've done, but I can envy you. But eventually the two come together, and there's listening to the tape of a seance. I think it was a seance. The investigator goes to visit one of the other people who was present and recorded on the tape, while we see Laura arrive, or Laura and Myerson meet. And while the investigator goes to talk with the other attendee of the seance, it does appear that he's also dressed as Rorschach. And that is where the issue ends. That's it for this week's roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.